All right, the number of participants joining the webinar seems to have plateaued, so I would like to formally begin this webinar on student services and networks available to international students at Lund University. Very nice to see you. My name is Timothy Parker, and I'm an International Communications Officer here at External Relations at Lund University. You may have seen me in some other webinars. I had the pleasure of hosting the Student Life webinar on nations, associations, and unions last week. And chances are, if you've sent an email about applying to an international program, I very may well have answered that one. So it's very much my pleasure to meet you all today. A participant in this webinar that you will not actually be able to see, which I would like to introduce, is my colleague, Maria Lindblad. She is not visible today, but she will be available on the Q&A feature, which you can see at the bottom of your screen to answer any questions that you have that are not actually related to student services and networks. So thank you for joining us today, Maria. And I also have two other colleagues from External Relations with me today as well. So Kristen, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, yes, thanks, Tim. My name is Kristen Klarberg. I am working with the Arrival and Orientation program here at Lund University, as well as with the International Desk.
And Carol.
Yeah, hello, my name is Karen Paulson, and I work here with the Alumni Relations team, and we also collaborate a lot with the career services as well. So you'll hear more about that shortly.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And without further ado, I would like to get our presentation underway. And I would also like to just add that, first of all, we will be presenting some of the student services available to international students at Lund University. And after that, we will have time for a Q&A session where we can answer any questions you have about the services that have been presented as well. So if you do have any questions, maybe take a look at the presentation first, as we might cover the answer there. And then if you still have any lingering questions after that, you can ask them. Another useful point to note is that you can actually upvote questions. So before you ask your question in the Q&A, scroll through and see if someone's asked the same question. You can give it the thumbs up, and that will push it to the top of the feed. And that will allow us to know which questions are the most popular. So I will just go ahead and share my presentation now. All right, so Kristen, could you just confirm that my presentation is shared? Fantastic.
Yes.
All right, that's great to hear. So today we will be discussing student services and networks available to international students at Lund University. And let's take a look at the agenda here. So as you can see, we have quite a few student services on the agenda. I would also like to begin by saying that Lund University is a decentralized university. So most of these student services and networks, as we're calling them today, not all of them are interconnected with each other. Some of them are independent, located at different areas around the university, which could be different to the way a university is structured in some other countries. So it's very good to just point that out before we get started. But some of the services that we're going to present today is the Academic Support Center, Study Guidance Services, Pedagogical Support for Students with Disabilities, the Student Health Center, Lund University Libraries, our Arrival Day and Orientation Week service, our fantastic and very famous, I should say, International Mentor Program, our Careers Service, the work we do with alumni relations. We'll touch on sport and exercise because that is also an important part of living a healthy and balanced life when you're an international student. We will discuss international opportunities. We will introduce the international desk. And lastly, we will talk about LU accommodation. So as you can see, there's a lot of great content to get through today. So let's get started. And we can begin with a resource and service that is very, very useful to many international students coming to Lund University who are looking for guidance and support with their academic research and work, and that is the Academic Support Center. So the Academic Support Center helps students to plan their studies and find better study strategies and writing habits. So the Academic Support Service is in fact a free service that is open to all students studying both courses and programs which are conducted in English at Lund University. I can absolutely recommend the Academic Support Center, especially for those of you who perhaps have been studying another language before, or if English is not your first language. Of course, if you're admitted to studies at Lund University, then you've already proven your English proficiency. And we know that you're an ambitious and talented individual, but of course, this support and service is there for you as well. So the Academic Support Center provides workshops, seminars, and also individual and group consultations, including feedback on text. And I've heard a lot of students talk about how useful it was to meet with the Academic Support Center when it came to the thesis writing time of their program as well. So during an individual consultation, students will get concrete feedback on all types of texts at all stages of the writing process. So what can the Academic Support Center help you with? So they provide consultations, workshops, and seminars on topics in two areas. So the first area is on academic texts and the writing process. So the Academic Support Center can help you with pre-writing, drafting and argument building, clarifying and working on the coherence of your text, revising and editing your text as well. And the Academic Support Center can also help you with your reading and study skills. This includes time management and prioritizing, which is a very, very important skill. If you watched our student life webinar last Wednesday, when we talked about the fantastic array of activities that students can be involved with, you might want to consider your time management skills so you can balance out all these activities with your studies as well. And they can also provide you with support on thinking critically and reading strategies as well. So moving on to study guidance services. All right, so there's a number of study guidance services available to international students when you're completing an international degree or course. And the first one, which we're going to talk about today, is the General Study Guidance Service. So both those who are considering to study a degree program or courses at Lund University, that's prospective students, such as yourself, and also current students at the university are offered guidance and information. And you can easily book an appointment for study guidance via the Study Guidance Service website. And there is also study guidance service available at faculty or department level as well. And here you can access more detailed subject-related guidance with regards to the programs and courses that are available at that particular faculty or department. So when you are admitted to a program, you will eventually get contacted by your program coordinator, who is your contact point for your specific program. And they will really open up a lot of opportunities and provide you with a lot of information, including, of course, your reading list and your schedule, but also they will be able to point you in the right direction when it comes to thinking about these types of guidance services as well. All right, moving on to another service which we are very, very proud to present, and that is pedagogical support for students with disabilities. So when you are studying at Lund University, students with long-term disabilities can receive learning support from Lund University. Now, an example of a long-term disability could be dyslexia, a visual impairment, or ADHD. Now, in order to receive support, you must have a certificate stating that your disability is long-term or permanent, or documentation from your home university. And decisions about support measures are made through the coordinators at the Disability Support Services and are then available through the department's study advisor. So there are different types of support which are available as well. And the disability support services can decide on different types of support measures based on the individual student's needs. So for example, you could have note-taking assistance, or another possibility is to have an adapted exam, which could, for example, be a longer time frame, or could be also in a small group. Mentors are also available, so are talking books, and also tutoring in study technique. So the question is, when should you apply for support? And it's crucial that as a student who's applying for disability support services, that you apply in good time. Here it says, as soon as you apply to Lund University, but I would actually say it's probably best as soon as you have been admitted to your studies, which is coming up in the not too distant future. Okay, and there are also actually possibilities to work as a support mentor or a note taker for this service. So as a student at Lund University, you can work as a mentor or take notes for other students who have been granted learning support. However, you should note that you need to have a Swedish personal identity number to be able to start working as a study support mentor or a note taker. Okay, now moving on to the Student Health Center, which is a fantastic service which is used by a lot of international students when studying here. So what is the Student Health Center? The Student Health Center offers counseling and support to Lund University students who are experiencing study-related health issues. So the staff at the Student Health Center work primarily with psychological problems that affect your ability to study, such as stress, worry, anxiety, depression, and transitional issues and/or academic difficulties. And this is also in addition to other public and private health clinics, which are available in Lund and the region of Skåne, which you can turn to for general medical issues as well, such as sexual health and contraception. And it's really, really important to note that Lund University it's really important. The mental health of our international students is really prioritized, and we really, really want you to have the best support you can while you're studying here. And the Student Health Center is a fantastic resource if you're experiencing stress, worry, anxiety, or depression. So what does the Student Health Center actually offer? And the Student Health Center works with both prevention and treatment of study-related issues. So they offer open seminars and webinars, so about different types of study-related health issues, such as the winter blues, which you may experience if you're from a sunnier part of the world. In January, it can get a little bit darker and cold. Loneliness and also stress. The Student Health Center also offers groups and courses with different themes, such as stress management and also how to deal with procrastination, which is also a common problem for many students these days. And another fantastic aspect of the Student Health Center is that they also do offer individual counseling. So if you are experiencing study-related issues like anxiety, depression, or stress, you can in fact have an individual consultation or a number of individual consultations with the Student Health Center. So who is actually working at the Student Health Center? We have a range of professionals such as welfare officers, nurses, psychologists, and also psychiatrists. And it's really important to note that the Student Health Center maintains strict confidentiality at all times. And according to Swedish law, they also have to keep medical records as well. All right, now this is the building that I was talking to you about in the beginning of the webinar, and that is the main university library building. And that is the perfect opportunity for us to talk about Lund University libraries and the fantastic library network that we have here at Lund University. So Lund University has one of Sweden's oldest and largest research library networks, with 25 libraries across the campus and around 200 specialist librarians. So the picture that we just showed you of the main university library is one of the 25 libraries. So as I mentioned also at the start of the presentation, we are a decentralized university, and you will be able to find specialist librarians for your faculty, even in some cases for your department, which can really offer you specialized research assistance. And apart from these 25 libraries, the electronic library collection includes over 374,000 ebooks, more than 30,000 e-journals, and perhaps equally important, 200 databases. So this is really a gold mine for students and researchers. As we've already mentioned, the University Library, sometimes referred to as UB, which is an abbreviation of the Swedish way of saying it, is perhaps the most special of the libraries at Lund University. Founded in 1666, at the same time as the university, it is housed in a magnificent ivy-colored building, and the library holds a large collections extending over 2,000 years, covering everything that has been officially printed in Sweden. And on top of this fantastic library network as well, there are a number of public libraries which are available for use free of charge right here in Lund, and also in nearby Malmö, Sweden's third largest city, which is a 15-minute train ride away from Lund, which also has some of Lund University campuses located there, and also in Helsingborg as well. And these libraries have a good selection of books, periodicals, newspapers, available in many languages. And I know many students do like to mix up the study environments by sometimes going to the Malmö City Library, or going to Helsingborg, or even to a library right here in Lund as well. So you've got a perfect opportunity to find your own study spot. There's plenty of locations which you can study in. All right, now I'm going to hand over to Kristen for a little bit, who's going to talk about our fantastic arrival days and orientation weeks.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, so we would like to make sure that every student coming to Lund feels welcome and ready to start their time studying here. So we arrange what we call arrival days, and this autumn it will be 2 different days, one primarily for degree-seeking students like those of you applying here, and one for the exchange students. And this day, we hope to help students find their way to Lund and to their house. So we have staff at the Copenhagen airport. Everyone wears these light blue t-shirts. This is Lund University mentors. They're quite easy to find, helping students get their train tickets, get on the right train to go to the right place in Lund, and get off at the right place in Lund, find more help from other mentors there to get some minivan shuttles and other shuttle buses to the arrival day location, where we'll have some practical things to help students get settled the first day. So through LU Accommodation, for example, students can pick up their keys, they can buy bedding packages, we'll have SIM cards, we'll have tickets for events that we'll be holding throughout the orientation weeks. Also IT help, and if there's any other issues, then we're there to help you through that day. Yes. And the arrival days is just the beginning of our orientation weeks. We have an orientation guide to Lund University, which is a digital guide that we give all students access to. And that works as a guide generally and a reference, and it includes a calendar, a schedule of all of the events that we'll hold through these 2 weeks that we call orientation weeks. And what we want to do with our orientation weeks is make sure that as a new student in Lund, you find practical help with things, how to get around, where are different locations, how to get a bank account, tax office, different things that you might need to get done in the first weeks. We want to make sure that you have some fun and meet people. So we want to arrange some social things, and we have, we'll talk more about the mentor program. We have, of course, information sessions on different matters. So we have a general information meeting. We have a health and safety seminar about getting around Sweden and Lund and how it is to live here. We, of course, if the different faculties have different specializations and information for their students. So there's a pre-registration day where students can meet their faculty or program coordinators and get really specialized information about their specific programs. We also have lots of cultural things. So we want to make sure that we work with the Student Health Center, for example, and they provide a seminar about cultural adjustment and how it is to live in Sweden and things that you can maybe expect when moving from one country to another. And we just want to make sure you get a good start to your time here. So getting practical things done, learning a bit about Sweden, and making some friends.
Fantastic. That sounds amazing.
And now we'll go into the International Mentor Program, which I touched on lightly. This is current students who really, some of them are international students themselves. Some are Swedish students who have maybe been abroad and want to come home and pay it forward. And some are students who want to maybe go abroad and get to know about how to have an international experience at home. But it's basically student volunteers who get together in a group and organize fun activities for new incoming students. The groups are about 4 or 5 current students to about 20 new international students. And it will be from all different backgrounds. So some would be exchange students, some will be getting a bachelor's or a master's degree. And it's a really great way to get to know some other people from different places. It's also a really great way because we have, for example, a mentor challenge, mentor team challenge. So they have team activities where you can get to know the city of Lund better and get to, I hear that you had a really nice seminar about the different student organizations, for example. So in one of the treasure hunt challenge, then teams will go around to these different organizations and get to see where they're located within the city and get to meet some representatives from those organizations. So our mentors, if they work as a mentor through the whole semester, they can get a mentor certificate. And of course, as we would encourage everyone here after the first semester to join the mentor, to be a mentor the next semester and the coming years. It's a great way to get to know people and have a good time.
Fantastic. And I think many international students would say that many of the friendships that they had when they were studying at Lund actually started in the International Mentor Program. So highly, highly recommend to sign up to the International Mentor Program. And if you're admitted to studies, you will receive an email inviting you to sign up to the mentor program. And if you, for some reason, miss that, it's probably always possible to informally join a little bit later on as well.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so now I will hand over to Karen, who's going to talk a little bit about career service.
Yes, before I jump into that, I can just also echo what you guys were saying about the International Mentor Program, because I myself was an international student some years ago, and also found that is a very good way of getting to meet friends and have lifelong friendships from that, and a great way to get into the student life, so definitely do that. And now I'm working with Alumni Relations, and we sit together with those that work in the same team, working with the career services. So a lot of the events and webinars that are hosted from our offices are there to be inspiring career events for you. We've done webinars such as, how to find a job in Sweden or abroad. Many international students, we know that you come here for your studies, but then quite a few are interested in sticking around in Sweden, as I've done myself. So there's lots of great tips to kind of learn how to navigate the Swedish job market. And also when it comes to actually writing your job applications and writing your CV, some little tips of things to think about that can be maybe different here in Sweden than it is in the country you come from, as well as preparing for job interviews. So we've done webinars of all these kinds of topics and seminars as well. There's also a e-newsletter called Career News, which is sent out a few times per semester. And it goes out via email to everyone, and you can read about the current events that are going on for students that are career related. There's usually also inspiring student or alumni portraits to give you some kind of maybe suggestions of what others before you have done. And also in general, some really helpful career advice. So that's always a good thing to kind of keep your eye out. Even if you're in the beginning of your studies, it's good to kind of know what to expect once you start nearing the end of your studies and thinking about the job market. And then Lund University also has a career portal that's targeted for students, and it's called My Career. And you can register for free there with your student account. And on that portal, you can find various job positions you can apply to, internships, thesis projects, and more. And also all of the career events that we organize, like the webinars and seminars I was mentioning, those are also posted on My Career. So that's a great resource to kind of find anything and everything career related that we are doing here at Lund University. So definitely keep your eye open for that when potentially here and looking for career inspiration. Yeah. And onto alumni relations, which we have kind of this nice bridge into a lot of those activities that we do that are to inspire students for life after studies are actually where we might invite alumni to be our speakers. So some of these inspiring career events may be a panel of alumni that are there to share their tips and tricks of how they navigated getting their first job, or we've done a series recently about living and working in various cities around the world, where we've had an alumni panel with alumni based in New York or in Brussels, in Singapore, Amsterdam, and recently in Copenhagen. And those are all available on YouTube to watch at the moment, but with a little bit of tips of what it's like to relocate to those cities. But of course, we've also done ones about working in Sweden as well. And so really, while you're a student, the Alumni Relations team here, we really try to give you the opportunity to meet alumni in some shape or form and get some inspiration about life after studies. And we also try and make sure that to remind you when you're at the end of your studies to join the alumni network. So we have these farewell receptions at the end of the semester as a chance to kind of say thank you for choosing Lund University and stay connected even after your studies. And the alumni network is currently about 44,000 members located all over the world. Membership in our network is completely free. So once you've completed at least 30 credits here at Lund University, you're eligible to register as a member in the network. And then we send out an e-newsletter to all of our members that gives a little heads up of what's the latest research news here at Lund University, various alumni events going on, some inspiring alumni portraits, and occasionally those kind of fun fact historical articles of little did you know about Lund University.
Hey everyone, this is the voice of Timothy Parker. When we were recording this webinar live, we encountered a little bit of technical difficulties. So the next two sections of the webinar will be presented with my voiceover on the slides, and then fortunately we can get back to the recording. All right, so now I'm going to talk to you about sport and exercise possibilities for international students and actually for all students when studying at Lund University. So there are many opportunities for students to keep fit or participate in sport when studying with us. So the student nations, the student associations, and the local sports clubs, as well as the community sports facilities, offer a range of sport and exercise activities in Lund and also in Malmö and Helsingborg, and of course in the surrounding region in Skåne as well. Another great option is Gärdehallen, which is one of the largest sports centers in Northern Europe. And Gärdehallen is part of Lund University, so it offers discounted prices for Lund University students. Gärdehallen has two facilities, one in Lund, the main area of Gärdehallen, which is conveniently located right on campus in the heart of Lund, and also there's another facility in Helsingborg as well. So another option is Victoria Stadion, which offers a gym with discounted student prices and facilities for tennis, squash, badminton, indoor handball, floorball, football, basketball, and volleyball. And there are also a number of local sports clubs which are generally organized on a volunteer basis, which are not connected to Lund University, but many international students really like to join all those clubs in the surrounding area as well. All right, and now I want to talk to you a little bit about the international opportunities that are available at Lund University. So many of you will already be international students who have come from abroad to study at Lund University. So you will already have an international experience while you're studying here. And the thing is that there's also many more international opportunities to be had both on and off campus at Lund University. So let's dive into those a little bit as well. So Lund University is a truly international university, and you will be part of a truly international campus when you're studying here. We have students and staff from over 140 different countries, and we are very, very proud of our diversity, and we actively work to have a diverse and international campus right here in Lund. And we ranked in the top 50 for the most international universities in the world on the Times Higher Education 2022 ranking. And we are proud to say that we are officially the most international university in Sweden. And Lund University also has exchange agreements with over 500 partner universities around the world from 70 different countries. And we are constantly conducting an extensive variety of international research collaborations as well. And many international students say that studies and student life at Lund University are an international experience in their own right. And not only will you have international opportunities on campus, there will also be additional international opportunities abroad. So even if you have come to Lund and come to Sweden for an international experience, you can go one step further and take another exchange. Perhaps you want to explore another European country, or perhaps you want to connect with another one of our partner universities outside of Europe. So when you choose to study at Lund University, you gain access to the university's international opportunities, which are a 1 or 2 semester exchange with one of our over 500 partner universities. We also offer short-term exchanges and summer courses abroad. There's a great opportunity for internships and field work abroad. And every year we send about 1,300 students on exchange. And we really hope that you can be one of them if you want to be one of them. And I really suggest that you check out Lund University Abroad on Instagram, which is an account run by our students who are on exchange. So you can get a really good example and lots of inspiration of the international study opportunities on that account as well. Now, a little bit more about international opportunities on campus. There are a number of digital international opportunities. We have a number of language cafes. We offer the fantastic and famous International Mentor Program. We have the possibility to engage in international student organizations, and there are a number of very, very well organized international student organizations at Lund University. And we have international and exciting student life at all of our campuses. Next service is the International Desk. And in this photo, you can see the Lund Cathedral, which normally is photographed from the front. This is the other side of the cathedral, and the International Desk is located very, very close to the cathedral, right in the heart of Lund, near Lundegård on Stora Algatan 4. So what is the International Desk? The International Desk is a reception area, which is here to help you with non-academic matters before your arrival in Sweden, as well as during your studies at Lund University. So some examples of questions that the International Desk can help you with. For example, where is my department located? Where can I get my LU student card? How do I open a bank account? And where can I get a SIM card, a bike, furniture, or groceries? Basically, the International Desk is here to help you with all those practical matters, and it's particularly useful for you when you first arrive in Lund. Perhaps you're a little bit disoriented. You can come to the International Desk, and they can help you with those practical things to help you settle in. Of course, we also encourage you to connect with the international mentors and talk to your program coordinator, but for those practical things, the International Desk is a really useful resource. And here you have all the International Desk contact information. You can see their website. You can see their opening hours on their website as well. You can see where they're located, Stora Algatan 4 in Lund, Stora Algatan 4. And you can see their email address, phone number. They have Zoom hours, and you can see their Facebook as well. So you can always flick them an email before you come to Lund if you have any questions. any practical questions that are on your mind that you want to get off your mind before you come to Lund. And now the final service, which we're going to talk to you about today, is LU Accommodation. So LU Accommodation is part of Lund University. It's the part of Lund University that works with providing international students, guest researchers, and visitors housing. So our three divisions work with long-term and short-term solutions for these groups. So where you today, you're international students who are waiting to be admitted. Where you fit in is that if you are a non-EU student who has been admitted for studies, and as long as you apply for housing on time, given the given time frame by LU Accommodation, you have what's called a housing guarantee, which means that you are guaranteed to be given housing. As I said, as long as you apply on time. So that's one less thing for you to worry about when you're traveling from another continent to Sweden. We really want to make sure that you feel safe and secure in the fact that you know that you will have guaranteed housing with us. All right, I think we're ready for the next slide there. Yes, exactly. So for international students, we have housing throughout the city of Lund, and which I should mention is a relatively compact university city, and you can get across the city by bike in about 15 minutes. We also have housing in Malmö and Helsingborg. And we offer students a variety of different room types in a total of 15 different locations within these cities. And for most of these locations, if you look on the LU Accommodation website, there are in fact videos where you can take a short tour of that specific housing area. So if you're trying to decide where you want to apply to, I suggest taking a look at those different videos of the LU Accommodation options. So you could be living in a studio by yourself, or you could also be living in a corridor with a shared kitchen. There's a lot of different options. All right, yes, exactly. And if you're one of the students who qualify for a housing guarantee, you belong, oh, sorry. Yes, if you're one of the students that doesn't meet the criteria for a housing guarantee, you can still apply for housing with LU Accommodation, and LU Accommodation can provide you with housing up until the stock is fully booked. And then, of course, there are a number of other options for non-EU students, for EU students to look for housing as well. And if you are admitted to studies, all information about housing will be sent to you via email as well. And that brings us, in fact, to the end of our presentation on some of the fantastic student services that are available for international students when studying here at Lund University. And I thought we'd finish up the presentation by just giving you a reminder that admission results will be announced very shortly. So we know it's been a long process from the time that you started your application, perhaps back in October or November last year. So 7th of April is the day for master's applicants, and the 13th of April is the day for bachelor's applicants. That's Swedish time, of course. So you can log into your university admissions account, and there you will be able to see your admission results. And shortly after that, you will receive a formal email from Lund University congratulating you on your admission if you have in fact been admitted. And as we've mentioned throughout the presentation, all students will receive information about the next steps, about how to pay tuition fees, about residence permit applications and housing applications, and arrival, our fantastic arrival and orientation services, which were presented earlier. All of this will be communicated to you via email shortly after admission results are announced as well. So we really put a lot of time and effort and consideration into ensuring that you really get all the support and information and advice that you need before you even come to Sweden, and also, as you can see from the presentation that we've made today, also while you are studying here as well. So, Kristen, I think you may be able to stop sharing your screen there, and we can move on to the next part of the of the presentation today, which is actually a Q&A panel. And I'm just bringing up the Q&A now. And I can see that Maria, my colleague Maria in the back end of this webinar has already been answering some questions. So thank you so much for that, Maria. And we can also move on to some of the other great questions that we've got here. So the first one is from Sarah. And Sarah asks, is the student note taker a paid position? So I believe that Sarah is referring to the note taking for the Disability Support Service. And as far as I am aware, that is actually a volunteer position, Sarah, to the best of my knowledge. Although it is, of course, going to be a very rewarding experience, and also it's going to look very, very good on your CV as well. Okay, just remember that you can also upvote questions if you see that someone has asked a question that you also want to ask as well. And Kristen and Karen, feel free to chime in at any time if you have any sort of additional information here as well. Okay, so another question from Sarah as well that has been upvoted quite a few times is, what does international student access to public health centers look like? Is it difficult or expensive? So Kristen, I'm thinking you may have some
I could talk about that actually.
Yeah.
Yes. It can be a bit difficult to get into it too much, but basically there are different levels for different types of students. It can look very different depending on if you're here for a 2-year master's program, for example, or 3 years bachelor's program, where you would get something called a Swedish personal number from the tax office. It's basically saying that you intend to move here and live here and you become part of the Swedish tax system. And then basically what would happen in that case is you get a number that says, I'm living here, I'm a taxing citizen who might, if you had a job, for example, pay taxes. But as a student, it's saying that you're living here, and then you would pay the same fees as a Swedish citizen would pay. Most kind of regular visits, kind of a regular doctor's visits, there's a kind of copay of 300 crowns. So I guess that's what about, I think it's 10 to 1, so maybe 30 euros per visit, something like that. And then depending on the type of student, if you have your own insurance, maybe that can change. But basically, there's also ways to claim back money. So fee-paying students have something called FAS Plus as an insurance coverage. And all incoming students have emergency coverage on campus. So if something were to happen on campus, that would be covered too. So there's different kind of levels depending on what kind of student you are. It can be a bit complicated, but healthcare centers are readily available. There's also something really great, which is one of the best things, because I'm also international. I moved here years ago, but they have something called 1177, and it's a phone number, and it's free of charge. And it's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it has registered nurses answering the phone. And basically, this is one of the best things I love about Sweden. If you're not sure what to do, you call this number and you talk to a nurse. The waits can be a bit longer. So if it's an emergency, of course, you call the emergency number. But if it's not an emergency and you don't know where to turn, you don't know what to do, you call this number and the nurses will answer and they'll give you guidance on what to do. It may be that they say, oh, you can go to the pharmacy and pick up medicine for that, go and talk to the pharmacist, or it might be that they tell you to go to the emergency room or the night and evening care, or to make an appointment for the following week at a healthcare center. So it's a really good, complicated question, but it is accessible. Many people speak English, everyone speaks English, and you can get the help you need. One thing that is not covered, which could be good to know, is dental care. That's privatized and that can be quite expensive. So we often say, get your teeth checked up before you leave home if you have good dental coverage or cheap dental coverage, and eyeglasses. So if you need eyeglasses or contacts, it's good to get all of that updated before you leave to come to Sweden. But feel free to fill in if I missed something, Karen or Tim.
I think that was a really good answer. Thanks so much. And you can also talk on 1177, the portal. You can actually chat with some doctors there as well. Yes. All right, another question which I can answer here from Arya, which is about tuition fees. If accepted to study at Lund University on the 7th of April. How long do we have to pay the tuition fees for the autumn semester 2022? So the first installment of your tuition fees is due by the 20th of May. But that's the first installment, so not the entire required amount. So you have some time there after you've been admitted. Okay, here's a question with 7 upvotes from Anissa. Okay, if we get accepted into LU, when are we supposed to arrive at Lund? Should we arrive on time on the scheduled arrival days? Now that is a good question that comes up quite a lot. So either Karen or Kristen, feel free to answer this one.
Yeah, so I can take this if you like. I saw that there was someone else who also asked if you had to be Lune strictly on the arrival dates. This is a really good question. We provide a lot of extra service on arrival day. There are a few programs who say that the start date of the program is arrival day. They want you here on arrival day. Other programs, maybe we'll have a meeting later in the week or the weeks after. The thing that we've heard from students who aren't able to come on arrival day, and it might be not their fault. It could be that they're waiting for a migration board decision. It might be that the flight was canceled or changed. It's not always the student's fault, but we do meet you up at the airport. We help get the students to Lund. We help get a lot of things checked off in one day. We have students, volunteers who work with us, over 100 who volunteer. There are a lot of them are in the mentor program too. So it might be that you join the mentor program and you meet your mentor on arrival day, and that's really fun. But it's a really good way to check off a lot of boxes in one go. And it includes helping you with your luggage around. You know, you get help from the train station onto a bus. We drive people to the arrival day location. You check in your luggage. You don't have to drag it around while you're going and getting your keys and getting practical things done. And then we drive you with your luggage to the housing area. So it's a small thing. Of course, you can do this with taxis as well, but we just like to help out. So you don't strictly have to be there unless your program expects you to do this. But you have to do a lot of running around on your own if you don't.
Exactly. So we could say it's not essential, but definitely highly recommended to come on arrival day. I mean, it's a fantastic experience to arrive on arrival day and be greeted and have all those mentors and staff waiting for you to show you around, pick you up at Copenhagen airport, at Lund Central Station, take you to get your keys. I'm just repeating everything that you've just said,
Yeah.
but it really is
a lot of happy faces.
Yeah,
Everyone loves working on arrival day. We get a lot of people who want to do it. And we have a really great time, and we think that the students arriving, we understand you've been traveling sometimes from Germany, but sometimes from halfway around the world, and a friendly face does a lot.
Absolutely. Okay, moving on to the next question from Devi. Can international students have a Swedish ID so that we can work in the faculty to provide help to the disabled peers or at other jobs as well? And this is a really good question, Debbie, that comes up a lot. And you are, as an international student, able to apply and receive a Swedish personal number if you are studying a 2-year degree program. So if you're admitted to a 1-year degree program, and most of our degree programs are actually 2 years in length, but some of the degree programs at the School of Economics and Management are 1 year in length, and actually officially the program is less than a year, which means that the Swedish Tax Office can actually not grant you a Swedish personal number, which means you won't be able to have a Swedish ID. So for all those students who are admitted to a 2-year degree program, you're absolutely able to have an ID, and then you can help out on note-taking for disabled peers and other things as well. But unfortunately, not if you're admitted to a 1-year degree program.
Add something in there, Tim?
Absolutely.
There's also there's not loads of student jobs, I would say, but there are some, and one of them that is usually for 2nd-year students. So if you're in a 2-year degree program, for example, at engineering as an example, they have the 2nd year is an SI program, supplemental instruction, and a lot of it means that you get like a really difficult course and you've done really, really well. You can apply to become an SI leader, and that means you help like as a 2nd-year tutor, and that's a really great job to get as well.
Fantastic. Thanks for that. All right, there's a lot of great questions coming in here. We do have quite a bit of time, so we can probably get through most of them. Moving on to the next question. It's about the individual counseling, which is offered at the Student Health Center. Now, is that free for international students? Yes, absolutely. So all the services provided by the Student Health Center are free of charge, so you will not have to pay anything at all as an international student. And yes, the Academic Support Center is also free of charge to international students. So no need to worry about making any payments for either of those services, which is fantastic. Okay. Now, this might be a great question for you, Kara, because it's more about employment and working in the Swedish job market. So Jimmy asks, from your own experience, to what extent is speaking Swedish needed when working in the Swedish job market?
We get this question almost every career event we do. I can mention that, but yeah, it's a bit mixed. Of course, it's always a benefit if you can speak Swedish. But I will admit, when I first started working here at the university, my Swedish was very limited. I mean, I took some courses as a student, but I was not by any means fluent. That's come with years of working here. But at the same time, we've also had a lot of other former international students who've gotten jobs here without knowing Swedish. We had once a panel where all 4 of the people on the panel still didn't really speak fluent Swedish, but all had jobs. Whereas we had another panel where everybody was much more on the other side of saying, yeah, you really should know Swedish if you really want to get to know your colleagues, because we have this thing here called fika, which is, you know, the coffee break that everybody takes at around 10 o'clock and 3 o'clock. And it's kind of like the water cooler talk that you might hear about in other cultures, but, you know, gathering around and having a cup of coffee and just that kind of small chit chat where you get to know your colleagues. And even if you're in an international company or where maybe business language is English, when you gather all the Swedes, they tend to just go into the Swedish. And you can maybe sometimes feel a little bit on the outside, but it's never done in an intentional way, but it's more of just you kind of go into that comfort zone of speaking Swedish. So in short, you don't need to be fluent in Swedish when applying, but just be aware of it when you're looking at job postings and things like that. If they do have listed as a requirement to speak Swedish, they're going to take that into consideration when they're looking at applications. But if it's, you know, more of like a good to have on the postings and things like that, it's always worth contacting the HR department and saying, hey, I'm really interested in this job. I have these skills. I can offer this expertise. And that always goes a long way as well. So yes and no, it depends also on the industry and the type of work, but there is definitely opportunities of getting into the Swedish job market without knowing Swedish, is the optimistic takeaway from that.
Perfect. Thanks so much for that, Karen. And I mean, I think you can also add here that if you are planning to stay in Sweden long term after your studies, if that's your plan, then I mean, it's always a good idea to study some Swedish and make a start as well, but not essential.
Yeah, we've heard too, those who have said that maybe if at the time of applying weren't speaking fluent Swedish, but we're in the process of learning, you know, letting your employers know that too, that you're actually actively interested in learning the language also goes a long way. Because you might also end up with colleagues who want to help you learn along the way and things like that.
Fantastic. All right, a question from Sanvi about the visa process if you're landing in Copenhagen first, because Copenhagen is, of course, the closest international airport to Lund, but is in fact in Denmark. So if you're transitioning through Copenhagen Airport to Sweden, as long as you have a residence permit or you do not require a residence permit to enter Sweden, then in almost all cases, you can transit through across the bridge to Sweden if you have a residence permit to live in Sweden. And of course, we will be hosting seminars and be sending out information via email about how to make an application for a residence permit. It's always a question that's on the lips of our applicants, and we completely understand why, but when you are admitted, we can help you with that. All right, so let's have a look here. Still got some residents.
I take one of the questions about
Yeah,
student
yeah.
discounts.
Feel free to jump in at any
All
time.
right. I saw there was are there discounts for Lund students, for example, shops, restaurants, etc.
Yeah.
Yes, is the short answer on that. There's something, you've talked about the student organizations already, I think, Tim. So there's Student Lund. The university itself is not the one who's negotiating discounts. It's the student organizations. So by joining Student Lund or by getting one of these other student cards, there's two different ones. And we'll of course tell you more about that before when it becomes a bit more important to get this. Getting a student discount card is through the student organizations, and it can be through the union or the Student Lund organization. And that is a discount card. And yes, a lot of restaurants will have like a student price for lunch and some travel discounts, and of course for the public transportation.
Fantastic. And Karen, also feel free if you see any question that you feel you want to answer that at any point as well. I think because I logged back into Zoom after my computer died, that I'm seeing the questions in a slightly different order to what you're saying now. All right, let's have a look here. Okay, the average monthly cost for LU accommodation is being asked by Sarah, and it can vary slightly, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Kristen or Karen, but I believe it can be from 2,000 to 4,000 Swedish crowns a month, approximately, depending on which accommodation you are living at. Great. All right, so quite a few questions here. Just trying to make sure that we're not answering ones that we've already answered.
I saw one here in regards
Yes.
about arriving on arrival day, and I can maybe chime in about getting there before arrival day, because that's how I arrived as both a master's student. I'm not sure if accommodation will be given, so maybe somebody else can take that half of the question. But I remember both as an exchange student and as a master's student arriving to Lund, I was a little bit nervous of, okay, I'm going to be exhausted after a huge long day of traveling and just wanted to kind of get there and get acclimated. So so both times I arrived and stayed at a hotel the night before, and then could get a decent night's sleep and then get up early in the morning and go to wherever the check-in was the following day. And then that way I could kind of take in all these great offerings at arrival day, because I remember it was a lot of information, but I would say having had people greet me at the airport in Copenhagen would have made my trip into Lund a bit more smooth, because I ended up hopping off at the wrong train stop with 3 suitcases, and yeah, so being new to trains in Europe, that was a challenging day. But definitely, I mean, I would say you can also arrive before and kind of get acclimated. But I'm not sure how it works with if you can get access to your student accommodation, or if it's booking a hotel or something similar prior to that. Maybe you guys can.
I can answer that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it depends on the contract date, to be honest. If you have a housing through accommodation, they'll let the students know what the move-in date is. And it may be even a week or two after arrival day, depending on the situation. The same with AF Bostäder, which is another major accommodation. They often have it start on the 1st of the month. So it may be the 1st of September, for example. So, but you should know the contract start date when you get an offer. And then you have to maybe make arrangements to live somewhere else temporarily. And some are open early, so it can vary.
Fantastic. So, all right. Natasha is asking if we can please explain about our first days in Lund. So we did touch on it in the presentation about how we really make an effort on arrival day and also in orientation week. So maybe one thing that we weren't crystal clear on is that arrival day is normally about 2 weeks before the academic semester fully begins. So you have those first 2 weeks to acclimatize, get to walk around Lund, see the amazing and beautiful buildings here in Lund, meet people in your program, sort out the basics, where your local supermarket is and where you can rent a bike from. So those first days, those first 2 weeks, if you arrive on arrival day, they are dedicated for you to acclimatize and fit in and get to know your new home before your program starts, before you have that first day of your program, which normally has a roll call and is the culmination of a long period of research and making an application. So perhaps you have something further to add there, Kristen?
I think that was great. We try and provide the first checklists and seminars and things like that too, and meeting the faculties.
Perfect.
I see there's one about students who have are only here for a year. And actually, by chance, we had a meeting with the tax office last week.
Perfect.
And got some great news. I don't have all of the details about it yet, but basically there's another type of number which may be available to one-year students that we're discussing called samordningsnummer. It's like an organization number. It's not exactly the same thing, but it might be a possibility for students then to get a bank account if they need one. So we'll have some more details about that soon. But it sounded like the tax office had good news for us, for students in this situation.
Here's a question from David, who's asking if it's possible to live in Copenhagen and study in Lund. So it depends on your residence status. If you're an EU citizen, then you can of course live freely in Copenhagen. And you can commute to Lund. It's going to take you about 40-45 minutes each way. Many students do it. Some people live in Lund, for example, and work in Copenhagen, the other way around as well. So yes, it absolutely is possible. If you have a residence permit just to live in Sweden, then, and you're from outside of the European Union, then I'm not actually sure if you would be able to live in Copenhagen. So it really does depend on your residency status. And also I should add now as well, Lund is a very charming and beautiful place to live. So I highly recommend living here while you're studying. Although some students choose to live in Malmö and Helsingborg or in the area surrounding Lund as well. But David, yes, as long as the residency criteria check out, and it is possible. And of course, I mean, Copenhagen is an amazing city. It's the capital city of Denmark. It's famous for many things, very stylish, lots of great places to eat, lots of galleries and things to do. So if you want to do that and you can, then that's something that is possible for sure.
I know, so there's a few questions too about learning Swedish during your studies and also online resources. I'm not 100% sure on what's the best there. I know there's lots of apps out there and things for learning languages, but I know through the university, there's also like language cafes, which is also a great opportunity to kind of in a more casual setting practice language skills. Maybe Kristen or Tim, you have also a little bit of information about what courses are available and also if Swedish for immigrants is available also for students. But there are definitely resources for learning the language. And like Tim was saying earlier, if your long-term plan is to stay in Sweden, then definitely take advantage of those opportunities. They're either free or cheap to do while you're a student, because that can really help prepare for, potentially staying and working in Sweden.
Yeah, I mean, Duolingo is a great app you can use to get started. I really recommend using Duolingo, and you can start using that now as well before you even come to Sweden. But as you mentioned, Karen, there's SFI, Swedish for Immigrants, which is offered by the local kommun, the local city council here in Lund, and those classes are free of charge as well. And they progress up to an exam where you can get certified that you've finished Swedish for Immigrants, and then you can actually continue on and move up the Swedish levels that way. Another great option, which some international students like to use, is Folkeuniversitet. So it's the People's University, and there you do have to pay a small fee, but the classes are a little bit smaller and they have fantastic teachers as well. So that's another great option. So there's really a whole lot of options there for learning Swedish. All right. Lots of questions about Swedish, which we have answered. And here's a question about how one gets to be a student mentor. So if you missed it while Kristen was talking about our fantastic mentor program, admitted students will be sent an email once they've been admitted, where they can sign up to the mentor program. You won't actually be a mentor first. You will actually be a mentee. So you will meet mentors who are current international students, and they will organize events. They will organize fikas at Espresso House, and they will have trips to Malmo and Copenhagen, perhaps hikes. Perhaps they'll take you to their student nation. Who knows what will happen, really. You'll essentially make friends and start off your social life in Lund and in Sweden. And then after you've been in Lund for a semester or 2 semesters, then you can sign up to be a mentor. And when I was an international student, I started out as a mentee and I became a mentor. And I think a lot of students really appreciate using both aspects of the mentor program. All right, I can see Maria's answering some questions as well. So thank you so much.
There's a question about the presentation, but I believe it's most of it's been recorded and will be available afterwards, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we had a few technical difficulties today, but we will upload the first half and the second half combined together of the presentation on our upcoming virtual events page. And there you can see recordings of all the fantastic webinars that we've hosted and all of the webinars and seminars that we have planned for this semester as well, which is quite a few. All right, so Karine is got another question about arrival. So apart from the light blue t-shirts, the famous light blue t-shirts that you'll see international mentors wearing at Copenhagen Airport, what other identification is there for persons welcoming international students to the university? Well, there's quite a bit. So perhaps I can start and then Kristen and Karen can chime in as well, because I have been part of the welcoming committee at Copenhagen Airport several times. So our mentors will have light blue t-shirts on, and then also staff will have darker blue Lund University t-shirts on. And we wait right outside the arrival gate at Copenhagen Airport. So once you collect your bags and you walk out, we are literally waiting right there from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. We have Swedish flags, which we like to wave all day. And we also have roll-ups, large human-sized banners, which have images of Lund University on there. So it's very difficult to miss us. Although every year, 1 or 2 students seem to slip through the net somehow, but they manage to get to Lund anyway. And what we do there at Copenhagen Airport is we literally take you to the ticket machines, help you get your ticket, and make sure you get on the right train to Lund. And once you get to Lund Central Station, there's a whole lot of other support there as well. So Kristen, perhaps you can talk about what identifies the Lund students and staff there.
Absolutely. Yes. So the light blue t-shirts are kind of the standard, but also we have some reflexive yellow vests, and they'll have the Lund symbol on them as well. And they're sometimes we're accidentally mistaken for the train personnel, but it's better to be asked too many questions than I'm not. So we also do have some flyers and beach flags and banners. At Lund Station, we also have kind of a table with staff there. There are also some dark blue jackets, and on the back it would say Lund University staff. So we usually generally try and have the Lund University on whatever we're wearing, and the light blue t-shirts are the go-to. But if it's a cold and rainy day, of course, a t-shirt's not going to do it. So it may be that they have the reflexive vests on top of a winter jacket, for example, when we're working in January. But the staff members, of course, if you're not sure, all the staff members will have some sort of a card on them. I don't have mine on me right now, but it would say Lund University staff. So if you're not sure, you can ask who the staff member is. There's always one staff member at every station, if not more. We also have people wearing reflexive vests who are working with the minibuses, and that's for a safety reason. We want to make sure that they're very visible and when you're moving in and around cars and traffic. So that's how most people are going to notice us.
Fantastic. And you can, I mean, Swedish people in general are very, very polite and accommodating. And if you somehow get lost, you can always ask someone along the way as well. I'm sure they'll help you. And as Kristen already mentioned, on arrival day as well, once you have identified Lund University staff and mentors, and we've helped you to pick up your keys and your welcome pack and things like that, we even have a shuttle service which takes you directly to your accommodation. So we really take a special care to make sure that you can get all the way to your accommodation and even pick up bedding for your bed along the way as well. Alrighty, there's a few questions that we have come up a couple of times. Okay, here's one about accommodation from Pravini, about how accommodation works if you're arriving with your spouse who is not going to be a student of Lund. So Pravini, I would suggest you get in touch with perhaps Karen or Kristen have something further to add here, but I would suggest you get in touch with the LU accommodation to check if they can accommodate you if your partner is not a student. It may be possible. I can't say definitively right now. And if it's not, then there's going to be some other options available to you.
I don't think it's possible. I think they're primarily taking care of single students. But AF Bostader, it's called. They do have couples housing, and it is enough that one of the person is a student, and the other one doesn't have to be. And also we'll go out with lots of information about this, but there's something called Bopoolen, and that's a privatized site where students can look for housing, and you can do it in several different ways. That you can put up an ad saying, hi, this is my name and this is me, and you have a house or somewhere for me and my partner to live, for example, or my family with children. There's also people putting out ads, and it's private. And there are two websites, so it's important you get bopoolen.nu. That's the correct website. And it might be good to know that the people working behind Bopoolen are staff. It's the city of the municipality of Lund, the university, and the student organizations together are funding bopoolen.nu because they want to make sure that the ads are correct, and there aren't fraudsters. They sometimes slip through, but they're trying really hard to make sure that students are getting good, genuine offers on housing. There's also resources, for example, to see like a dummy kind of contract. If they have a contract and you want to see how a contract should look in Sweden, they have examples on their website. There's also the people working behind. You can contact them if you ever have any questions, even just like legal questions, like my window broke, whose responsibility is it to fix it? Things like that. They're really, really amazing workers there. So that's a really great place to find a private market. And that might be that then if you would like to live maybe in the countryside, that's a great way to live outside the city, for example, if you don't mind traveling a little bit.
Exactly. There's a lot of accommodation options in the area and the villages and towns surrounding Lund as well. And I even know some international students who have lived with Swedish families as well, which is another slightly alternative option, but very cozy and rewarding experience as well. And I think very good for the Swedish as well, if that's something that you're interested in.
I see also that this will be brought up later on. I think it's maybe after when it becomes more relevant to start applying for housing. It seems that you guys will host another housing seminar.
Exactly, but I mean, we completely understand that housing is something that's on the mind of our applicants. So just want to remind you all that all the information you need to know about housing, and including some instructional videos about how to apply to housing, will be sent out to you as well. Sorry, there's a bit of pollen in the air here in Lund at the moment during spring. All right, we're getting closer to the end of the Q&A session, but there's a few more questions which I think we can answer. And Karen, perhaps you may want to answer this one about how long is an average internship abroad for an international student?
Yeah, I guess that kind of depends. If you're doing an internship, that's part of your program. I know several of the master's programs, I'm not quite sure about what the bachelor's programs have, where maybe one of the semesters is intended to be dedicated to an internship. And so in that case, yeah, it might be a few months internship. I know the program I did was the Applied Cultural Analysis. And there we were to do an internship that was, I think, roughly supposed to be 2 to 3 months, but you could extend it longer if you wanted to. And I'd started mine in the summer before the second year and continued into the autumn semester. So I think in the end it was closer to 6 months, but I stuck on because I thought, well, if they want to have me around and I could get the experience, that was great. And it was just in Malmö, so it was more local, but I know other programs also have where you can go abroad for your internship. So it probably just depends on your program and what kind of setup they have. If you need to also simultaneously your internship, if you need to be taking certain courses, if those are supposed to be done here in Lund, or if they're on a distance basis. So that can be definitely something you check with your program coordinator, I would assume, to know exactly those durations. Yeah, but I would assume at least a couple months would be a minimum.
Yeah, exactly. I think you can, for some programs with an internship built in, you could take a 15-point internship, would be a quarter of a semester, or a 30-point internship, which would be the whole semester, I think, are two of the options there. And another similar question from Rika about how you can participate in a student exchange program. This is also a possibility for many of our programs in the third semester of our 2-year programs, where you have the option to either take elective courses, an internship, or even an exchange. So again, as Karen just mentioned, if that is built into your program, get in touch with your program coordinator and they can let you know the options. We have over 500 partner universities here at Lund University, but again, that number is probably going to get narrowed down slightly when it comes to your specific exchange experience, because you need to take an exchange with, you may need to take an exchange with a university that has similar programs in your area. But in the third semester, that's when exchanges are generally possible. Rika. All right, so I think we're getting to the end of the Q&A session because we've answered most of the questions which are coming up here. I can see another good one here about the disability services provided to students. And the question is, if Lund University provides access to students with visual impairments, for example, the Braille translation of exams. I'm just thinking back to the presentation which we made, and if you have a visual impairment, that was one of the disabilities which you can seek support in. So the answer to that question would absolutely be yes. And Ricardo is actually asking a question about other webinars. We do host a lot of webinars and seminars here at Lund University. And Ricardo is just asking if there will be some webinars to explain more about specific faculties. So Ricardo, at this stage of the application process, we have not actually planned in any more webinars where we will be talking specifically with faculty staff. However, in November, we had a virtual application week where we had a lot of different webinars and panel discussions with staff members and researchers from different faculties. So perhaps you missed that at that time, but we did organize those panels, and you should be able to watch most of them on our upcoming virtual events page or on our YouTube channel as well, where you can see those webinars. And also, you also have the opportunity to reach out to your program coordinator when you're admitted if you have any more specific questions related to your program as well. All right, were there any other questions, Karen or Kristen, that you saw in the Q&A which we haven't answered yet?
Yeah, I guess there's probably some questions we're just not going to be able to get to in this time slot, but I did see there was also another question about work opportunities while you're studying, and I know that's a very challenging task here because It's not as common maybe here to find a lot of kind of part-time student jobs in that sense. But I mean, occasionally maybe there might be a cafe that has little bits of, here and there, you can pick up a few hours, but it's not usually something that a lot of students are doing, or that's available really. But there are now and then student worker positions that pop up within the university. So that can be something to kind of keep an eye out for. And like I said, those positions that are for students also are shared on my career.lu.se, which is the career portal. So there you usually can find all of the student positions that are offered within Lund University. And I'm not sure if there's any differences there for those that have a personal number versus a temporary personal number in regards to like other cafes or companies in the area doing hiring for part-time work, but that could also maybe be something that makes it a little bit restricted. But it is kind of thought here that when you're a student, you focus on your studies, and working and studying isn't always the same. But like I said, if you're mostly interested in getting the work experience and not necessarily doing the work you need the extra cash on the side, there's lots of student organizations to get involved in where you can volunteer and get lots of that work experience that looks great on a CV. So if it's mostly for the work experience, take advantage of any of those kind of activities within the nations or student unions or any of the student organizations, because that's a great way to get experience that you can then have on your CV. But if you're looking for it for more of earning some extra cash on the side, that could be a little bit more challenging, unfortunately.
Thanks for that, Karen. All right, so yeah, we're definitely getting a lot of questions about housing and about residence permits. And as my colleague Maria, who's been answering so many of your questions in the back end, has said in the chats, you will be given further information about housing and about residence permits once you are admitted to Lund University. So have no fear, that information is coming your way, and we'll provide you with all the information you need in great detail and support, of course, via email as well.
I have a question from someone who was wondering about arriving on arrival days with their family. We try and help everyone as much as we can. We have to give priority to those who have housing through the university, but having said that, usually we can arrange some sort of help as long as it's a reasonable request. If it's like somewhere in Lund that the person needs a ride with their family, I think usually we can make it work. If it's driving really, really, really far away, I don't think we can help guarantee that, but we can, when it comes time, definitely get in contact us so we can see if we can make it work.
Fantastic. And we have now answered 72 questions, and with the help of Maria as well, who's in the back end of the webinar. So first of all, I would like to thank you all for attending this webinar today. And it's been a pleasure to present some of these student services that are available to you as an international student. And that actually brings to a conclusion our Student Life Month, or almost brings a conclusion to our Student Life Month. We still have a couple of chat sessions with students, which are happening in the coming days, which you can read about on our website, where you get the chance to chat directly with current international students. But we really hoped you've enjoyed the presentation today. Karen and Kristen, thank you so much for joining and answering the Q&A as well. It's an absolute pleasure to have you along with us. And finally, as we have said, admission results are coming out very soon. We know it's been a long wait. So the 7th of April is the day for master's results to be announced. And then the 13th of April is the day for bachelor's results. So log into your university admissions account on that day to hopefully see the green light in your account, which will let you know that you've been admitted. So for now, that brings our webinar to a close. So thank you very much for joining today, and we wish you all the best of luck with the admission results. Bye-bye.